For each case, there will be a public hearing. We ask that the applicant keep their presentation to under 10 minutes. They may reserve 2 minutes as a rebuttal. We ask that the public keep their comments to 2 minutes unless they have previously requested in writing for 5 minutes as a representative of a group or organization. Pursuant to the provision of Section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, notice is hereby given that a final hearing before this commission is appealable to the Chancery Court of Davidson County or the Circuit Court of Davidson County, vis a statutory writ of certiorari. You are advised to seek your own independent legal counsel to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements are met. You should also seek independent legal advice regarding the applicability of the writ of certiorari to the specific decision of the Historic Zoning Commission. First on our agenda is the adoption of June 21, 2023 minutes. Commissioners, are there any questions? There's a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have 4 concurring votes, so we are good. Ms. Ziegler, is there any changes to the agenda for today?
We do have some. 905 Villa Place was administratively approved. 1520 McKinney Avenue, the notification requirements were not met. And the middle housing presentation from planning is postponed till next month. So items 15, 22, and 23 are no longer on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve is amended.
Motion to approve. Second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 4 concurring votes. That makes it a passing. All right, are there any council members present? Councilmember Withers? You'll wait for your, for your project. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your service as well. On consent, and I'm just going to have a preface on that for Joseph, administrative permits issued. I just wanted to acknowledge, we look like we have a short agenda, but really our staff has been working quite hard this month as well. We have 54 permits that have been administratively approved. For the record.
Okay, the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the public or the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be heard at the end of the agenda. So if anybody has, when I read the consent items, if anybody would like a consent item to be pulled, just raise your hand and we'll see it and move it to the end of the agenda. Yes.
I can help you with that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
The first one is 1908 Beechwood Avenue. This is an application for new construction of an addition. 1912 Cedar Lane, new construction of an addition. 101 Church Street, rehabilitation. 101 Church Street, new construction of an addition. 1411 Gell Lane, new construction of an outbuilding. 922 North 14th Street, new construction of an addition and outbuilding. 1702 Russell Street, new construction of an addition. 2800 Westwood Avenue, new construction of an addition with a setback determination. 901 Montrose Avenue, new construction, an addition and a setback determination. 2014 Sweetbriar Avenue, new construction, it's an addition. And then 905 Villa Place was approved administratively.
Thank you, Joseph. Any questions? Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, seeing no objection from the gallery, I move approval.
Thank you for the motion. Second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Concurring votes. That passes. Okay.
Next up is a expansion of an existing overlay, the Downtown Historic Overlay. This area includes 3 National Register districts. There are 3 projects within this area that are not permitted, but that we are suggesting that you approve as if they are already permitted, because they're large projects that have been in the works for several years. And that is 226 3rd Avenue North, 231 3rd Avenue North, 215 to 217 3rd Avenue North. And that information was in your packet as well. We think that all apply for the overlay because of being listed in the National Register, or property is eligible for listing in the National Register. So recommend approval of the design guidelines for this project and for recommendation to the Planning Commission and Council.
Having trouble pushing that button. Thank you, Robin. Any questions?
And may I say, before we get into discussion, that Councilmember Mayhall said she was going to recuse herself because she owns property within the proposed overlay.
Robin, questions since it's a recommendation? Council member, do we do public hearing on this as well? Yes, we do. Okay. All right. We can open public hearing. Anyone want to make any comments, opinions? All right. We will close public hearing. And commissioners, do we have discussion or questions to staff? Okay.
I just want to say thank you to Robin and to the staff for working on this expansion of the overlay, especially in light of everything going on 2nd Street. Just thank you for all your hard work on this, and know that it is appreciated.
And piggyback on that as well. So Councilmember O'Connell is, I'm sorry, did you?
Yes, that kind of went by fast. I did want to say.
Oh, you did. Legal, let's just finish comment real quick. And then legal,
You can reopen.
We can reopen public hearing. Okay. As Commissioner Cotton was saying, we also want to thank the Councilmember O'Connell for bringing this to our awareness, and also for having this expansion, because it's very worthy to do that. There's quite a few properties that are notable there. So with that, we will. You want to have more discussion?
Madam Chair, move that we reopen public hearing to allow members of the public who want to speak to be heard on this issue.
Okay, is there a second to open? Second. Okay, there's a second. Please come forward. Thank you. We didn't see you back there.
Thank you. I should have waved a little bit more. My name's Doug Sloan. I live at 6354 Torrington Road here in Nashville. Very much in favor of the overlay, the existence of the overlay, and expansion. I represent a number of clients that own properties within this expansion area, and many of them are in support of having it on their properties, but there are some who aren't sure about what they want to do with their properties, and are concerned about the overlay and the requirements that it will put on them for making changes to their property. So one of the things that those clients would like to know is if the commission is open to removing some of the properties that have been put forward as part of the expansion. But they're not in opposition of the overlay in general, and certainly see the value in it. They are just still working through how to handle it with their properties and aren't prepared to proceed at this time. One other thing that I would like to mention too is that the Planning Commission is going through a rewrite of the downtown code, which all of these properties are also covered by. And I think that these two should dovetail well together, but that conversation hasn't progressed to where these same property owners understand the requirements and the benefits of the downtown code as it relates to these properties. As an example, in downtown Nashville. If you've got a historic property, you can transfer the development rights from that property to another property that may want to increase the height. Transferable development rights, or TDRs, haven't been used that much in Nashville, but as someone who represents a lot of developers, I think they will in the future. And I think the key to making that work successfully is the rewrite that's happening in the DTC. And so I would ask that these two pieces of legislation be moved forward together.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sloan. I appreciate your comments.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mark Morrison. I'm one of the owners of 325 and 323 Union Street. They're on the periphery of this expansion. In general, we have no problems with the expansion, but we would like our properties, and I've got another neighbor here on Union, to be excluded or from the expansion. We're older buildings. Union Street, first we're under the MDHA Capitol Hill redevelopment plan. So the Historic Commission has input. From my personal experience, we had the front of one of our buildings fall off in 2009. We restored it, rebuilt it, but felt that MDHA is really the appropriate person to look at our Union Street properties, because the rest of Union Street is either already, there's no contributing properties on the north side of Union at all, and there's a large break in the contributing properties on the pieces that are on Union Street. And so we would like, for myself at 323, 325, 327, and 329, would like to be excluded. I have spoken with other people on the Union Street properties, and since we're on the periphery and we don't add a whole lot to it, would like the expansion at that time to be reduced so it doesn't include our properties. So in the future we can figure out, as development occurs, how to approach it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My English is not as good as the previous people, but I also want to make sure that...
Please give us your name and address.
My name is Kaveh Baluch, and the address is 327, 329 Union Street.
Thank you.
And I want to make sure that I second everything Mr. Mark said. If you guys can, exclude Union Street, it would be really good, really helpful for us.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Pocklington, Pocklington. I have the building at 421 Union Street, and we have been talking to Mark, and I would echo what he says. We've been in these buildings are very difficult to renovate. We've been renovating one for 2 years at 421, and I just say that it is challenging to do that, and we have fully have the integrity of the building in mind when we're doing that. The facade is protected. The facade's protected under, I believe, MDHA, and we did work with MDHA. And I think a lot of elements in MDHA are on the Historic Commission. I could be wrong, but I just would support what Mark Morrison said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Tom Paduch, and I'm representing the owners at 419 Union Street. And just briefly want to echo the same sentiment regarding being on the peripheral of this expansion. We're yet undecided as well, just based on what we want to do with our building. So we would like to ask for your consideration to limit the expansion to exclude our property at 419 Union. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing no other, we will close public hearing, and commissions will have discussion. So thank you. Thank you for your comments. Should we talk about the exclusions? This is a recommendation to the Planning Commission, right?
That's right. In the past, Your role is to determine whether or not it qualifies and then make that recommendation. In terms of the timing, whether or not it's deferred, whether or not the boundaries change, that'll come later in the process. That would be up to Councilmember O'Connell, Planning Commission, and Council.
Thank you, Robin.
I guess to echo that, having heard the maybe objections at this point is too strong of a word, certainly concern of those who are present as to not really knowing or wanting some more input, some more information. I think heard, I did want to echo or reiterate, we oftentimes find ourselves in the position to adjudicate whether something should be in or shouldn't be out, and really our job is it eligible and does it meet? And I think we all know that spot zoning or carving these districts in such a way that they could become indefensible puts the jeopardy of the district itself at risk. And so we're juggling. I guess I say that to the gallery, that we're juggling, but all of those things. And in terms of defining the boundaries, again, we're making a recommendation of eligibility, not the final say, if you will, and also approving the guidelines for what it's worth. So I think there will be additional time for those things to be fleshed out further. It's not that necessarily we're not listening, but we have to do what we're charged to do.
Duly noted. Any other comments?
Yes. I echo Commissioner Mosley, and also with the timing, because of the council body will be concluding in a short couple of months. So if we were to delay, this recommendation may not make calendar of this current council member. So with the body, we are meeting the requirement. So I would like to ask to consider and move forward, and then encourage District Council Member O'Connell and the development team and the building owner to further discuss, including planning staff, inclusion or exclusion, what would be the right course. But I think in our body, it is the right thing for us to do, to just recommend to keep the integrity of the historical Nashville zoning.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Cotton, have any comments?
I just agree. It's always, there are many steps to this process, and this being the first, and us just looking at what we are charged with, which is simply, is this district eligible? I think we have to make our decision based off that determination and let the process move forward to deal with exclusions and such. So.
Okay. Commissioner Cashin?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. I think we're all in agreement, and I think, again, the purview is the design guidelines, and that it does meet, this area does meet the Secretary of the Interior standards. So that is our purview as the Metro Historic Zoning Commission. So we are, just had discussion, so will someone make the motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve expansion of downtown historic preservation zoning overlay as staff recommended.
There's a motion.
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there are 4 concurring votes, so that does pass. Thank you again for your comments, and again, this is one of the initial processes, so look out for the next few months. Thank you.
Y'all ready? Okay, so the one and only violation day is at 2009 Cedar. This is a circa 1942 minimal traditional home that contributes to the Belmont Hillsborough Conservation Zoning Overlay. A permit was issued in November of 2022 to enclose a side porch, as well as to construct a rear screen porch. There are 2 parts to this violation. The first is that vinyl windows with interior grids were installed inside the enclosed porch. There was also faux rain siding installed on both the enclosed porch and on the rear screen porch. No inspections were conducted of the property prior to the final, and neither element was reviewed or approved by staff prior to purchase and installation. The applicant is requesting to keep the work as is. And just as a heads up, there were several comments that were sent in this morning that should be in the SharePoint. So again, the first issue is the siding. It has a faux grade stamped on it. According to section 2B1D of the guidelines, materials should be visually compatible but not contrasting greatly to historic materials. Typically, siding could be either the smooth face cement fiberboard or smooth face wood. This was noted on the permit. The permit also stated that faux grain siding is not appropriate. The other issue again is the window. They installed Sun 5H57 vinyl windows with interior grids or interior muttons. These windows have been previously reviewed by staff and determined not to meet the guidelines. Again, they're vinyl, and with very few exceptions, vinyl is typically not approved for windows. Due to the high gloss typically associated with materials, its inability to be sanded or painted like wood, and the details such as weep holes and fusion welded corners. For these windows, we do have very prominent fusion welded corners and then the weep holes as well. They also again have interior grids. According to the guidelines, muttons should be fully simulated and bonded to the glass and exhibit an interior bar, exterior bar, as well as a spacer bar between. And this was also noted in the permit as well. The permit also knows we have to approve the windows prior to purchase and installation. Next slide. So with that, staff recommends disapproval of the new windows and siding installed at 2009 Cedar Lane, finding that they do not meet section 2B1D and 2B1G of the guidelines. Staff recommends that the existing windows and siding be removed and replaced with the compatible materials within 90 days of the Commission's decision. So, any questions?
Not at the moment. Kelly, thank you.
I believe the homeowner is here.
If I may, I'd like to distribute these to the commissioners. I appreciate being here today.
Go ahead and give us your name and address, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm Samuel House, and I live at 2009 Cedar Lane.
Thank you.
I've lived there for 41 years. The last time that we made any improvements to the property was in 2002 when we built an addition. When we embarked on the process of doing these two additions, converting the screen porch and roofing the back deck, I thought I had read everything in the overlay and the other guidelines. What I did not realize, after I had supplied two redrawn sets of plans, and it also had to come up with a plan that shows the setback from the sides and front and back of the existing property, which Metro doesn't even have to have. I had to find someone who could draw that with the satellite app and the plat. I've done everything. The whole time that I've lived in Belmont Hillsborough, I've served twice as neighborhood president. I've been on their board for several years. I've taught English as a second language for 15 years. I'm scoutmaster. We've had neighborhood gatherings. We had no reason to just try and blow ahead and do whatever we wanted. I tried to do everything that I was asked to do. However, unfortunately, when the permit was applied for, it was applied for by my contractor. And the response was sent to my contractor attached to the email that I had submitted to staff with the side and front setbacks. And apparently he assumed that the attachment on that old email was still the old attachment. And he went ahead. However, as you can see in the handout, what we have done may not be 4-inch hardy plank, and it may not be wooden windows, but it is exactly like what you will see on probably 80% of all the other houses on Cedar Lane, certainly on my block. And so what I'm here today is I need you to understand that, number one, we did not do this on purpose. And number two, just because ideally everybody on Cedar Lane with the Tudors and the Cape Cods and the log cabins and all the other construction, if they all had 4-inch wide hardy board, and if they all had wooden windows with exterior wooden mullions, maybe that would be different, but they don't. Every house is different. And it even says in the guidelines that even though the italicized material isn't necessarily the guideline, it does say that, turn over to that. It's important to remember that every building is different, and what may be appropriate for one building or site may not be appropriate for another. If someone imagines that the Tudors were built with mud and wattle and timbers, or if even the Cape Cods were built the way that houses were built in the 1700s, that's lovely to imagine, but all those things are modern materials. And as to vinyl windows, in the early 2000s, the government provided federal tax energy credits, and also NES provided a break for people to put in vinyl windows because they were more energy efficient. And that is the reason that all the other 21 windows on my home are vinyl, and that most of my neighbors have vinyl windows. So as we chose those materials without having had all of the staff's instructions, which they gave to my contractor, who is from Robertson County and was not aware that he should look for those, we would have chosen those other things, even though I personally think that maybe that's an overstep in terms of what's real in our neighborhood as it is being conserved and what people are doing now. And as far as the neighborhood conservation, when we campaigned to get that accepted, we weren't doing it because we hoped that none of the houses ever changed. We were doing that because developers were constantly approaching all of our neighbors about buying their property so that they could scrape off the land and build a church or an apartment complex or an office park or a strip mall. All those things were coming up. So to protect our neighborhood and for it to continue to be the family-friendly place where it has adapted over the last 80 years, we brought in the overlay. Now it's kept things looking very nice. But I'm just here to say that what I've done, and you can see in the pictures, is certainly compatible with all the neighboring houses on my block and also farther on down Cedar. And so I need your consideration before I spend $12,000 to $15,000 additional dollars because of this error to go ahead and replace it with something that will not match the other homes on my block. And I'm not sure that I can afford it as a retired person. So I need your consideration, and I want you to recognize that I really did my best based on what I know. And another thing, too, is that even though I know it's practice across the country to provide any guidelines to whoever applies for a permit, my name was on the permit, and if the homeowner is responsible for compliance, I think the homeowner should also at least be copied, because we certainly would have taken that into consideration. I probably would have appeared here 4 months ago to ask about the windows, but I could not do what I did not know.
Mr. House, is your contractor here?
No. And when I talked to him, he felt badly because he was thinking about, okay, $15,000 to redo what we've already done. And I don't know. I don't know if he will do the appropriate thing if you all decide to uphold the violation. But again, even though it was not what staff requested, it certainly was not what I was aware of. It does comply in other ways with the guidelines of the overlay.
My question, too, is did your contractor share that permit with you?
No, ma'am. I did not know that the permit had all of those notes on it until July the 3rd, when Joseph Rose sent me a copy of what he had sent in November to my contractor.
And you did not ask your contractor for the permit copy?
No, I didn't know that I would. He just emailed me and said, we have received approval today. And that was what was in the first sentence of the email, which was still with the subject of the side and rear setbacks.
For public comment, every applicant can ask for their permit, and you can actually look online as
I
well.
was not aware of that.
Okay.
I thought that we.
This is public hearing, so I just want to make sure everybody hears that.
I
Yeah.
really do.
Okay.
But you can see my predicament.
We're hearing you.
I appreciate it.
Okay. All right, you have 2 minutes unless you want to cover your 2 minutes. 2 minutes for rebuttal if there's public comment. Would you like to hold that 2 minutes for public comment?
Let's hang on to it.
Okay.
I mean, I
Yeah.
can't think of anything else
Sure.
to say
Yeah.
other than we've always tried. And in this, I know that ignorance is no excuse, but we were not aware of that part of the process, having not gone through it before.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, open public hearing. Please come forward. And we will note that there was public hearing, public comments on the SharePoint, so our commissioners have read that.
My name is Michael Hudson. I live at 1910 Cedar Lane. I've done so for 29 years. I've known Sam and Polly House for all of those 29 years. I can say without any doubt whatsoever that whatever reason we're here, it wasn't done by Sam and Polly House to thumb their nose at this commission. That I can absolutely guarantee you. Also, I have been in the construction business. I'm now retired, but I've been in both the commercial and residential business in Davidson County for 50 years. I have seen far more boneheaded things done by contractors than not letting their owner know what's going on with the window choice. And I also second all of the things that have been said by the neighbors who support Sam and Polly. You have a letter from Aiken Foxman and a letter from the Farrells. They're very well worded. I agree with absolutely everything said in those letters, and I second everything that Sam has said here. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward.
My name is Thomas Meyer. I am Sam's next-door neighbor at 2007 Cedar Lane. Here to support Sam and ask you to let the structure be as is. I have known Sam now for 10 years, living next door to him, and I can, just as Mike said, know that in talking through this process that there was never any desire to blow through this or not take into consideration. In fact, we've had many discussions about this project, and all along he was trying to make sure that he was within the guidelines. So the intent was definitely there. So that was the first thing I want to say. And then the second thing is just represent and make sure that my comments were submitted this morning, and as Mike mentioned, the neighbors all around us. So his two direct neighbors have written, I want to make sure everybody knows that all the neighbors that are directly across from him and next to him feel very similarly, that this structure meets the guidelines in our opinion, that it certainly fits within what we think the neighborhood should look like, and hope that the commission will consider and let this stand as is. I would hope, again, one of the things about these five neighbors that have submitted support for leaving the house's situation as is, all were in concurrence in trying to object to the project across the street across the street from Sam. And so we're familiar with the guidelines, and we feel comfortable and confident that what the houses have done, having reviewed the guidelines a lot over the last 6 weeks, that this really does fit within the guidelines, or at least the spirit of the guidelines, and it certainly looks great, and we think it should stand as is. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
One thing I forgot to mention, 1912 Cedar Lane that's on your agenda has the same window in it that Sam is asking you to keep. And there's no requirement by this commission to make the new owner of 1912 remove those old windows. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no one else, I will close the public hearing. So closed. Commissioners? Yes, please.
May I ask a question to the staff? Sometimes some certain overlay area, replacement windows are not reviewed while, new construction window material will be reviewed. So what kind of category would this fall into?
In this overlay, if they want to replace the windows, we would not review them unless they're changing the opening size.
Thank you.
And this is for new construction?
Yes.
So if it's into that second category?
Yes, I understand.
you're asking
Yes,
about.
that was my question precisely. Thank you.
Hi. I used to live around the corner from you on Hazelwood, and so I walked down your beautiful street. It's a dead-end street, and it's just gorgeous. And I went by yesterday to see your addition. It's very modest, and I'm, not an architect or anything, but it just seemed to me like it blended well, and I'm inclined to say that it's okay, especially with all your close neighbors really coming to your aid and agreeing with that. And I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I very much dislike hearing these violation cases because it's not an expression of applicants or people who mean well. It's that in many cases, regardless of intent, we're not able to adjudicate intent. And certainly with the defense of neighbors on all sides surrounding and probably up the street and in other streets, it seems certain that this neighbor this applicant who's been in the neighborhood for so many years and has even served the county and volunteerism makes this even less pleasant, I guess, to deal with. But I'll say in every case that I recall, I can't remember any notable exceptions that when reviewing siding and windows and their appropriateness, the guidelines and meeting the guidelines is paramount. It's necessary, despite what a poll vote or straw vote or whatever else might take place. That is our duty here, and the guidelines guide us. So in this case, despite my wishes to the contrary, we have required other applicants to meet them. And in fact, I'll say the reason why the permit is so specific on these issues is that we don't like hearing this, and it is certainly not the intent of the staff nor of this commission to have work undone or to unduly burden an applicant. And so that is one of other or many reasons why the permit specifically says as much, because we've run into this before. And so for that reason, for those reasons, and purely because this isn't a popularity contest, it's an enforcement of guidelines that have been adopted and approved for a neighborhood, that I can't allow myself to be inclined for this to as a violation to be permitted.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I concur with Ben, Commissioner Mosley. I really would like to say it's okay, but, our duty here is to uphold the guidelines and to set precedent. And unfortunately, with good conscience, I can't approve this one. I can't approve what staff has, let me clarify that. I approve staff's recommendation, so I cannot let the structure stand as is.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I echo everybody's, difficulty. I'm somewhere in the middle between Commissioner Mayhall and Commissioner Mosley, and those two side strong argument. And the reason I asked about the window is, yes, indeed, this is a new construction. Yes, indeed, in the permit, it shows before you purchase the window, staff should approve the window. It's crystal clear in the red language. But at the same time, if this were to modification or renovation, homeowner does not have to contact historic, zoning commission, our body, as long as window size, openings remains the same. So for that reason, I'm kind of lenient about the window portion. And as far as siding goes, it is crystal clear it's no grain siding. So it's clearly violation again. And so it won't be fair to other, property owners and other people to just overlook everything, because our bodies are charged with to follow the guideline. That is not us, but rather neighborhood, get together and come up with the guideline. So I'm somewhere in the middle. So maybe I'm leaning because of even though this is a new construction, but modification allow window choice. So I would like to kind of forgive the window portion, but maybe go with the siding portion. That would be kind of where I'm leaning. But, I can be swayed.
Quick clarification from staff. Was this project, forgive me if I wasn't paying close enough attention if this was mentioned, was this approved administratively, or was this a case that was heard before this body?
It was an administrative permit.
So I guess, I will echo the pain that we feel in dealing with these violations. But I do have to say, for precedent's sake, I do believe this is a very clear violation of the guidelines. As to whether we are willing to make an exception for that, it's a different discussion, I suppose. But clearly in past cases, we have recognized that these are violations. So for the record, for precedent's sake, I just want to acknowledge that I do believe they are violations. As to whether we make an exception for them, I'm open to the conversation.
As a general comment, again, this commission continues to voice this when we have violations, is that applicants be wary or be aware or be diligent with your contractor on, following that permit, because it does put our commission in a spot where we're, again, you hear us discussing, and we are considerate of the applicant, especially, I think we hear you were not, you didn't have that intention. However, you own the property and you gave your contractor the permission to do this particular project, and they come to staff and they have a permit, but they don't follow it. That's where we have a really hard time in terms of how we make these decisions. And I have to say that, really, applicant, you should go back to your contractor, because they should have an errors and omissions whenever they have a license or a business license or their insurance, because if that was truly not your decision to do that, you should go back to your contractor. Because we as a body, we have to follow what Secretary of Interior's and also how the neighborhood has created these guidelines for us to follow. So whether we're thought of as the bad guy or bad person, we don't mean to be that, but we do have to follow so that it doesn't set precedents, as one of our commissioners has said. And every property that we do look at is specific. So, and again, not to say he said, she said, but sometimes when you look at a overlay, some things that have already been done have been prior to the overlay being established. So you might see some of those things that go, well, that's not what my neighbors look like. We don't know that. We don't know when that particular construction was done. But, applicants go to your contractor. I mean, this is important for them you have to hold them accountable. We've closed public hearing, but, and we're in discussion, so I don't think I can open public hearing right now. That's just for public hearing because, we have contractors that listen to us. Yep. Commissioners, anything else? Unless somebody wants to make a motion. I understand also, Commissioner Johnson, and you're being on the fence on that. And we do try. We really try to help out the applicant and see how this can work.
As much as my heart is with you all and that neighborhood, I have to say that you wouldn't believe the people that come to us and say my contractor didn't follow the rules and I didn't know. And some are very innocent like yours, and others are not. And hearing my fellow commissioners talk about setting precedents and homeowners' responsibilities when dealing with their contractors, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to probably vote with the majority of my commissioners today. So.
Want to make a motion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, with respect to 2009 Cedar Lane violation case, I find with the analysis of the staff and recommend disapproval of a new windows and siding installed, as I'm not compelled by evidence permitted that it is in keeping with the Secretary of Interior standards or with the guidelines.
Are you making a motion?
So moved.
So motion. Second by Commissioner Cashin. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that's the majority of the votes. So that motion passes.
The next case is 4606 Elkins Avenue. The applicant requests demolition of a contributing house, arguing for economic hardship. The house at 4606 Elkins Avenue is a circa 1920 contributing house in the Park and Elkins Neighborhood Conservation Zoning Overlay. Over time, the house has fallen into a state of disrepair due to neglect. The applicant has provided one engineering report as part of the application. The report from Bassett Engineering Services and Design discusses foundation issues such as the lack of a continuous concrete footing and foundation wall failure. In his report, Mr. Bassett also describes issues such as overspan floor joist, load transfer issues, and undersized framing. Despite these issues, Mr. Bassett concludes by saying that the structure appears to be somewhat stable. He recommends replacement and/or reinforcement of structural floor and roof framing, new footings, and a new foundation wall. He also points out that either new continuous sheathing or a new lateral bracing system will be needed. Staff recently visited the house and observed the issues discussed in the report. Staff finds many of these issues to be issues commonly found in structures of this age. Repairs and reinforcing are often necessary but rarely require full demolition of the structure. Despite the work needed on the home, staff finds that the home is not beyond reasonable repair. The applicant has also provided a demolition estimate, cost of restoration estimate, estimated as-is market value, an estimated market value after restoration, and purchase information, which are fully analyzed in the staff report. The current owner has only owned the property since June 1st, 2023, and so is not responsible for the disrepair and deterioration of the home. However, it is incumbent on the applicant to make an informed purchase, and at least some of the issues would have been discoverable at the time of purchase. The applicant did not provide an inspection report from the time of purchase. There is no doubt that the general lack of upkeep over the years added to the deterioration of the home. However, staff finds that the home is not beyond reasonable repair. Staff recommends denial of demolition of 4606 Elkins Avenue, finding that the project does not meet Section 3B2A nor 1740-420E of the Zoning Ordinance for Economic Hardship, and does not meet Section 3B2B as the building is contributing. I'm happy to take questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Thank you, Joseph. Applicant?
Hi, thank you. My name is Christy Wilson. For some background on me, I live at 4807 Elkins, which is 2 blocks down from this home. I'm a real estate broker and the owner of the Wilson Group Real Estate Services. Our offices have been in the Sylvan Park neighborhood since 1988. I have worked as a broker in the neighborhood for the past 30 years, and I've lived on Elkins for the past 20 years. I personally am in favor of the Park Elkins conservation overlay on our neighborhood because of what has happened in the past 10 years. However, there are homes that just aren't livable, and the cost to cure is too high to make economic sense to do so. So my first point in regarding the guidelines asked to be supplied for the application is, first of all, I'd like to say Joseph has been wonderful to work with. Thank you so much for your time. But some of the things that were presented in the packet to me seem inaccurate and confusing. The main thing that is confusing is that the application process instructions, it states provide an estimated market value of current condition and after alterations to meet basic code requirements. It does not mention to bring it to a full renovated value, and the homes used in the aftermarket of renovated homes are not homes that are just in basic code conditions. But starting with the cost of restoration, I argue the cost savings choices here. Staff shows in the first bid a cost savings of $163,000. So in the first area of savings, they're talking about windows and doors. I agree that every door that's salvageable in that house should be salvaged. However, every window is not only not original to the home, but the sashes and casings are completely rotted through, and there would be nothing to attach a window to. The casings are just flat out gone, as in evidenced in the pictures that were in your packet. In cabinetry and countertops, I mean, I guess you could keep cabinets from the 1970s that are full of grime, dirt, and mold, and the Formica is has expanded underneath and rotted. I don't think that would be codes worthy, but if you wanted to scrap that from the as a cost-saving measure to bring to codes, you could. And so I argue that instead of $163,000 in savings, there's about $63,000 in savings. So that first estimate to bring it to codes would therefore be $725,000. Per the second quote, it is argued that $50,000 may be excessive for siding removal. What is not recognized here is that this home is currently clad in vinyl siding, and underneath the vinyl is asbestos shingle siding. The asbestos shingle removal cannot just be thrown into the dumpster and has to be disposed of as a hazardous waste. The $45,000 on hardy board is an accurate number, assuming the original siding can't be restored. So, however, if that siding can be restored, we don't know now. So even if you take that $45,000 out of that bid, you don't contemplate the work that would have to go into restoring the original wood lap board. So your savings would be approximately $90,000, thus bringing this bid to approximately $717,500. The cost to bring this home just to basic code then is $717,500 for this bid. If you add that to the current value of the home of $500,000, which is in essence lot value, your cost in the property is $1,217,500. In addressing the comparables, there were no sales in Sylvan Park that were comparable to this home in its current condition to compare to. Most homes in this condition are sold and torn down. The homes used as comps that have sold in the past 6 months were tear downs, so the price per square foot that is shown in the PowerPoint is irrelevant, and this home as is nowhere near $497 a square foot. And I'm confused as to why it's being presented this way when stated in the application that the only comps available in the past 6 months to year time frame are all tear down homes. Regarding the comparables in the market value after restoration, again, to be clear, it's stated in the application guidelines that the value you're looking for is to meet basic code requirements. I showed this in the comps used in my application that the value of this home would be in the $325 square foot range, which is taking the average of 4411 Nebraska Avenue, which is also in a conservation overlay, and 4016 Murphy Road, taking the average of those two sales to bring you to $325 a square foot. At that price point, the home to be brought up to basic code, the value of that home would be $698,000, not the $992,376 as indicated by staff. With the exception of 4907 Elkins, the other comparables are completely renovated and updated homes. I too used 4907 in my analysis, but didn't give it much weight because it is in excellent condition. 4902 Elkins, in looking at that comp, shows a close date of June 2nd, 2023, and this home actually closed on June 2nd, 2022, which was at the end of the height of the 2020 to 2022 insane real estate market. I know this closed in because it is across the street from me, and I verified it on tax records. That home was completely renovated. So again, these homes are just not homes in basic code condition. These are homes that have been renovated very well, with nice kitchens, nice landscapings, nice garages. Therefore, the value given by staff of $992,376 is not an accurate value of what this home would be brought to be in basic code condition. The value would be right under $700,000. And even if this home was completely renovated, it would not garner a value of even close to $1 million unless the floor plan was reworked, more square footage added, the upstairs apartment was tied into the main house, a real kitchen and baths installed. So the bids you see before you today don't even take into account these things. I'll turn it over now to the structural engineer to discuss the structure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Marshall Bassett, Bassett Structural Engineering. I did visit the property as was said earlier, and a value judgment of stability shouldn't be insinuated as safety for habitation. Value judgment that it was stable is just that the house is safe to enter and do our work as necessary. From a historic perspective, the house was never intended to have a habitable attic. That was probably the biggest concern. So with a habitable attic, it doesn't have adequate structure. There's not adequate structure for load transfer to a foundation that really doesn't exist, that it exists in a form that would facilitate transfer of those loads to earth. Again, no foundation. This was originally a post and beam foundation. It was upgraded sometime probably in the late 60s to the CMU block foundation that you see there represented in the photos. And as we've seen, I'm sure you've seen in the past too, there's really not a foundation necessarily under that concrete block foundation wall. It's merely a mud slab, if you will, to provide a level surface to put the CMU block around. Some termite damage in the main load-bearing beam down the center of the house. Multiple repairs have been done, remedial fixes from temporary shoring posts, rocks, car jacks, and various deleterious materials. So as far as the stability goes, sure, it's standing now. Is it safe for habitation? What is the long-term effects of the house in general? It's hard to say. But again, it's not adhering to any type of code from either an existing property foundation or a brand new build. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. You still have 3 minutes for rebuttal. I just to note. All right, open public hearing.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Bailey. I live at 4700 Elkins, which is 3 doors down from this home you've seen pictures of. And the agenda says that we're in a conservation overlay. It's actually a National Register historic district, which I would think would give us even greater protections. It's only about 16 blocks, but this is the third demolition permit that I'm aware of. It's hard for me to imagine that rehabbing that house is really going to cost $700,000. I've rehabbed a bunch of houses. I own a number of rental properties in Sylvan Park. That seems pretty excessive. The value of the lot is worth at least $550,000, and maybe in that district it's worth $600,000. But in any event, the reason those of us who worked to pass this National Register district was to save the contributing homes that we were losing at a pretty rapid rate due to the market. And so we thought that would help us, and that's why I'm here to speak against the demolition, is because I think it would be the loss of another contributing home. The home I live in was built in 1889. It's the oldest surviving house in the neighborhood, but there aren't that many Victorians. We've lost a bunch of them, and so the other thing is the other demolition was on the same block I live on that was just a couple of years ago. And unfortunately, the house that's been built back does not fit in at all with the neighborhood. It has modern windows. It looks like a modern house. So in addition to the loss of what I would feel is a contributing property, I'm afraid we'd get something that would not fit into the neighborhood. And I really think that staff has got it right. I think this house could be rehabbed for what prices are bringing in that neighborhood. I think it could be rehabbed and sold. So thank you for your consideration and my thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Close public hearing. To disclose that I did a walkthrough, Commissioner Cashin as well. We had 2 other commissioners, but they're not present today. So that's just for the public hearing.
Do you mind me asking what your impression of the walkthrough was? I've driven by, but I was not walking through.
I tend to agree with staff. I think the house is salvageable. Very much so.
I also agree with staff recommendation.
This isn't a criticism of the work that's been done to, you have to have some methodology to do an economic hardship. And I myself struggle with, counters and countertops aren't code requirements. They're just not. You need plumbing and, where you draw that line. Are they necessary to live in a comfortable house? Sure they are, but in terms of code requirements. So I think it's putting all the numbers together and, including it on both sides of the ledger accurately is, somebody has to do it, and I respect that it's done and done with some level of care, and there certainly is room, as today's, both the staff report and the applicant's presentation here today, there's certainly some room for disagreement about that, but I struggle with, what does that really mean in terms of whether demolition of a historic property is appropriate or not in talking about the real bones of the house. That's just a hard spot for me. I'm not added anything, I guess, to the process, but I think in reviewing this application and having been here for a minute or two and seen several, I feel like I tend to support the staff's position on the house, the particulars of dollars and the value of it are but one consideration in my mind in terms of what the determination or permission to demolish a house are, and weighing this one against others that we've considered. I find that what's been presented, I did not walk through the house, but what's been presented here, that the house is, there's not a, I don't find in favor of economic, actually I don't find in favor of demolition. The economic hardship, I think, can be argued.
I agree. Reading the staff report, and I think one thing, critical thing missing this report is how to rehab. And, you know, the foundation, the cost of rehab, seems like everything presented to us is as if demo, then rebuild. That's the cost presented to us. So from that report and from the picture, I was not convinced it will meet our economic hardship guideline. So I'm fully support of staff recommendation on this case.
Thank you. But it's always difficult, you know, for us to quantify or qualify demolitions, especially if, you know, again, when somebody mentioned it's under the registry, although registry does not protect for demolition, just so you know, it needs to have an overlay. And fortunately, this area does have an overlay so that it can be reviewed.
Robin, can you confirm what the overlay is on this property?
Yes, it's both listed in the National Register of Historic Places and in the Neighborhood Conservation Zoning Overlay. And as the chair said, the National Register is honorary, but it doesn't change property rights. It's the overlay that creates this design review process.
And we're happy that it's under National Registry because it does, it makes it notable. So thank you for all the efforts on that as well. Okay.
With all the comments I've heard, and if there's no other further comments, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff recommendations for 4606 Elkins Avenue.
There is a motion. There's a second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is 1013 Montrose Avenue. This is also an application for demolition of a historic house. This one is located 1013 Montrose Avenue, and again, the applicant is arguing for economic hardship. The house at 1013 Montrose is a circa 1930 contributing house in the Waverly-Belmont Neighborhood Conservation Zoning Overlay. The house sits on a corner lot at Montrose and 11th Street. The house was owned by the same family for 40 years, and while it was not significantly updated, it was maintained and cared for during that time. This is the house there on the bottom in December 2022 when the estate of the longtime owner was selling it. Next slide. The applicant has provided an engineering report as a part of the application. The report from Garner Engineering discusses three main issues: the roof, the foundation, and the first floor system. Several layers of roofing are documented and are causing deflection due to weight. It's a little bit hard to see in the photos. You can definitely see it when you're there in person, but there's kind of a little bit of a dip there on the roof that you can see. And you can also see there at the eave edge, there's several layers of roofing there. The report suggests removing the roofing and either reinforcing or rebuilding the roofing structure. Next slide. The foundation needs to be rebuilt and reinforced as well. It was originally built with cedar posts on dirt with no footers. Brick was infilled around the perimeter, but is sitting on compacted earth with no footers. The report suggests the structure could be lifted such that the foundation could be rebuilt. And just as a note, you can kind of see where this basement door is on either side. You've got those brick walls. That ground underneath them, I could pick it apart with my hand. It's definitely, there is just brick sitting on dirt. And there at the very far right, you can kind of see there's one of those cedar columns there, and they just filled in the brick later. Moving on, it's a little bit difficult to see in the photos, but the floor is deflecting significantly as well. The report suggested that were the foundation to be rebuilt, the first floor joists could likely be leveled and retained. Mr. Garner does not conclude that demolition is necessary, and he gives solutions for the structural issues. Staff recently visited the site and observed these issues. While staff does not dispute that the roof and foundation both need work, these conditions are fairly common in structures of this age, and staff finds that they do not merit demolition. Despite the work needed on the house, staff does not find that it is beyond reasonable repair. The applicant has provided a demolition estimate, restoration estimate, estimated market value, both as is and after restoration, and purchase information. These are all analyzed in the staff report. While substantial work is needed on the foundation and the roof needs work as well, these conditions were easily discoverable at the time of purchase, as was the property's contributing status in a neighborhood conservation zoning overlay. It's incumbent on the applicant to make an informed purchase. All factors considered, staff finds the house is not beyond reasonable repair. In conclusion, staff recommends denial of demolition for 1013 Montrose Avenue. I did want to point out you did receive, I believe, 3 letters of support or 3 letters of public comment from neighbors. Some of them just arrived this morning, so I hope you got a chance to see them, but they were all in support of staff's recommendation against demolition. And I know the applicant is here and would like to speak. You have questions for me first?
Also that I also did the walkthrough, Commissioner Cashin and 2 other commissioners that are not present today.
Hi, my name's John Duke. I'm a representative of the contractor that our client has hired us to assess the house and kind of make an assessment on what can and can't be done with the house. I'd like to express my appreciation for the staff and for the board members that came out and to inspect the home and to look at what was needed in the house. The first slide here that's pulled up here, I just wanted to go over the main points that were needed there. Basically, we would have to lift the house up off the ground 9 to 10 feet in the air to get to install a foundation properly and to pour footings underneath it. That's denoted by the yellow bar there, and all the little piers there, I guess, is what we were trying to show, was what would be needed to have happen. So the house would need to be suspended in the air, and our concern is that that puts a lot of stress on the house, and there's a lot of risk to damage of the property to be able to install this type of work. On top of the foundation, that is missing, the walls that are missing, the roof that needs to be rebuilt and torn off and completely new structure installed for the roof. So all the shingles and the decking needs to come off on the roof. At that point, all that's left is the walls of the house. And the stress and the risk of tearing the roof off the house, the amount of shoring that would be needed to hold up the walls while the roof is removed, is another drastic measure that puts stress on a house that's 80 or 90 years old. With all the three, the 3 things that the engineer recommends to be done to the house, that's where our argument for economic hardship, all that would be left to the house at that point would be the walls and the windows. And we would like to propose that we remove those items. Right now it's currently covered with vinyl siding and then 2 more layers of non-historic siding, and underneath that is the original wood siding, and it's hard to tell what it looks like under that, but our proposal is we take those items off the house to save them and to be reused. Anything that's on the house currently that could be salvaged, we would salvage those items to allow us to build a foundation on this property, that's done correctly, and to build a house in the same form as what it is right now, and to reinstall those items that, say the cornice and the rafter tails and all the columns on the front porch, the windows and the door, all the original stuff that's historic. We would like to save those and reinstall those on on a new house. Our intent is not to tear the house down and build a 2-story giant house there. It's to build exactly what's there, just with the foundation under it. Same exact roof form, pitch, everything else. All the porch, the columns that are the same shape, everything else is to rebuild what's there, just do it properly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you flip one more slide for me, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the Historic Commission. My name is Curtis Duke, representing Superior Custom Homes and Remodeling, located at 93 Seaborn Lane in Brentwood. Today, we present analysis on 1013 Montrose Avenue, unveiling the market value within Nashville's highly competitive real estate market. After conducting a comprehensive examination of comparables aligning with industry standards, we have identified the economic challenges associated with 1013 Montrose Avenue. Candidly speaking, considering these circumstances, we request your thoughtful consideration for demolition as practical solution to address the prevailing economic hardship. There are 4 points that I would like to make. Broad set of comparables. To accurately determine the market value of historic properties, it is crucial to consider a wide and representative set of comparables, including both properties within and adjacent to historic district overlays. Number 2, value of adjacent properties. Properties adjacent to historic districts contribute significantly to the neighborhood's historical fabric, sharing architectural styles and cultural heritage with properties within the district. By including these properties into our analysis, we only align with real estate market analysis standards, but also support the preservation of our shared history. Number 3, real estate and market analysis standards. In thorough market analysis, it's common and necessary to consider comparables beyond boundaries like historic overlays. Factors such as location, age, condition, and unique features play a vital role in selecting comparables. Number 4, historic overlay as main criterion for comparable selection. While historic overlay provides valuable context, it is not the main criterion for selecting comparables. By considering a broader set of properties with similar characteristics, including those in various states of repair, we ensure a more accurate assessment of the property's market value. To sum up, our method provides a detailed and complete view of the historic property market. By including adjacent properties, we capture the value they contribute to the neighborhood's historical fabric and align with real estate market analysis standards. Let's embrace this comprehensive approach for understanding the value of this historic property. If time allows, I would like to reserve 2 minutes after public comments. A few additional comments that I would have just to kind of show you what we're showing you on the screen. What I'm showing you here is all the comparables are within the map overlay of what is provided through the documentation of the Historical Commission. Yes, 4 of them within the historic overlay, the 3 are adjacent, and 1 is just down the road. We believe these are very good comparables to actually perform the total analysis of what is actually the value in today's market. Thank you.
Thank you. Just the 2 minutes is rebuttal to public comment. So if you want to have any other comment on the project, it would be good to say it now.
Oh, no, ma'am. We have no further comments on the project right now.
Just want to be sure.
Yes, I just wanted to save the rebuttal for after public comments. Thank you.
If there is a rebuttal.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Open public hearing. Seeing none, close public hearing. No more rebuttal. Yeah, that's what I was saying to you.
Presented today, those were public comment, correct? But they were just supplied via email?
I'm sorry, to clarify, is he saying that he's responding to a public comment that was previously submitted?
Yes, I believe that's what he's saying. Is that okay? I'm not sure that we...
Posted today for a public comment, as a public comment.
He's asking to do the rebuttal of the public comment.
But that was was that available to the board?
It was.
And available to applicant prior?
The time threshold that you call prior.
Prior to the beginning of this meeting?
Yes.
So you saw the rebuttal. So legal, I think
I believe that they've been given an opportunity to present the issues they wish to present.
Okay.
So it's not clear to me what the context
rebuttal would be.
That everyone's had that information prior to their presentation.
Right. Yeah. That's why I was saying to you, if you wanted to say something, that would have been the appropriate time to say that, because you don't have, comment unless there's rebuttal. Correct, legal? Let's make sure we,
Yeah, that's how I understand the rules.
Okay. Okay.
And just for clarification, this is my neighborhood. Haven't been in the house, but I've driven by it. I do want to say I was at a neighborhood gathering where this particular house was brought up. I did not participate in discussion about it, and I suggested that those who had concerns please write in or attend the meeting. But I just wanted to let everyone know, and I've formed no opinion prior to this meeting, but just in all full disclosure.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Discussion?
I would appreciate Commissioner Cashin if you would share your impression when you did a walkthrough.
Well, very much like the last application for a demolition that we discussed, I saw nothing that made me convinced that it needed to be demolished. I thought it was very repairable. And I think all of us have been to sites and where we did concur that a beautiful structure did need to be demolished because it just was beyond repair. And this one, in my opinion, did not meet those same standards.
It's always good to have our architects that are on our commission, because that's not always our career, and our eyes see differently than an architect. So I do appreciate that we do have architects that do the walkthroughs, because they might see something that we don't. So.
I do appreciate really sharing this, especially professional opinion. It's very valuable. We have seen several demolition requests past close to 4 years. And there's so many methods to rehab the building, because old buildings, sometimes time passes. Yes, some foundation or some post will need some repair, but I do not recall entire house need to be airlifted that much, and I think that might be the cost why the repair and rebuild versus a demolition and rebuild, the cost difference. So with that, I am not really convinced that rehab cost is that much higher than demolition and rebuild. So reading those reports carefully, I am inclined to support staff recommendation. I don't think this one meets the economic hardship with that method and how to rehab and so forth.
I'm trying to think how to say it. When we do go through walkthroughs, and I mean every property is specific. We do look at foundation really to see, what the bones are of a building. It is hard for us to be compelled to do a demo. If there's any kind of proof that a property can be reasonably maintained, then we're going to lean towards that as a commission. What you could see inside, probably that's where my eyes go. Rehab is being done, and we experience that to so many projects, and even seen other projects, and I can't help but compare some of that because of structural and how today's professionals can actually do a really good job in terms of renovations and how methods that they use to do that. So I think I'm saying that in general. And again, I'm not compelled totally that this property is demolition worthy. I'm not compelled.
I don't know if there was a question in there, but I think how, methodology for going about how do you, well, first of all, removing the excess weight of, 4 re-roofs, 3 to 4 re-roofs, as was observed in the report. It's not, roofers do it all the time. I think a complete and total sheathing removal and replacement, we can't know that, but certainly from a visual inspection, there appears to be some deflection, and how much of that, would be removed by lessening the weight that's done on re-roofs and on historic houses all the time. Scabbing is an alternative to a complete tear off of the roof and replacement. Again, I don't know that it was observed that significant termite damage, fire damage, or any other by the staff's inspection wasn't observed, and certainly wasn't in the report, to my understanding. Again, I didn't visit the house, but I think that methodology certainly could influence an estimate for price of repair. Cribbing the house and installing a new foundation, there's lots of techniques. I'm not here to argue which one is the best one in this case. You've got some licensed professionals who've have a recommendation. The easy way is to get it way up off the ground, and so people can stand up and walk in there and install a foundation. Certainly there are other methods to do that involve a harder, albeit harder and likely more expensive method. So I don't know that we're here to adjudicate those things across the board. In my experience and of houses that we've seen, and those that do meet a threshold for approval of demolition, that are eligible houses and meet our historic contributing, let me back up and say contributing houses, this one does not appear to meet that threshold for me.
Yeah.
It seems like we're all singing off the same page here. And I just said that I don't think that there's anything we take more seriously than demolition. I mean, it's almost the reason for our existence. And,
Yes.
And so, and we've got some architects on here who know what they're talking about. So with that respect, I recommend that we approve staff recommendations for 1013 Montrose Avenue.
I think the commissioner has made a motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mosley. All in favor of the motion? Okay. Any opposed? None. And that motion passes. Thank you.
All right. The next application is for infill at 210 South 10th Street. So the lot at 210 South 10th Street is currently vacant. The commission previously disapproved a proposal for a 2 to 3 story townhouse development on this lot in April 2023. The lot is zoned MUNA, and the use of the proposed development is by right under the current zoning and does not require rezoning. Next slide. I'm going to start with some context photos. So these photos you see here are just to the left of the development along Fatherland Street. Next slide. Here are more photos of houses along Fatherland Street. And here is the northern part of the lot along South 10th Street, and a multifamily development that the commission approved in 2015. And here are images of multifamily structures across South 10th Street. Next slide. Here's the site plan. Note that the future development noted on the site plan is a separate lot owned by the applicant that is not part of this development. The proposed development has buildings fronting both Fatherland Street and South 10th Street, as well as buildings on the interior of the lot and along the alley. The development includes detached residential structures along Fatherland Street, which staff finds will serve as a transition to the detached single-family Edgefield neighborhood to the west along Fatherland Street. Along South 10th Street, the development transitions to attached residential units. Staff finds this can be appropriate because there is little historic context along South 10th Street, and attached residential units have been approved by the commission in the past along this part of South 10th Street. All of the proposed units facing Fatherland Street and South 10th Street have entries that face their respective streets. Only the residential units along the alley have parking included. Next slide. Here are the detached units along Fatherland Street. They are 2 stories with a height of 28 feet 9 inches above grade at the front. Staff finds that the 2-story form with heights similar to what is seen at the high end of the 1 to 1.5 story historic houses nearby is appropriate here because it will serve as a transition to the lower height and scale of the neighborhood. The detached form of the houses and the rhythm of spacing also help to make the overall height and scale of these Fatherland units appropriate. For these units and all the residential units in this development, there are interior stairs that go to the roof. However, these interior stairs do not require a stair or elevator bulkheads on the rooftop, which would add height to the structure. Next slide. Here are the units at the corner and along South 10th Street. They are attached and have a similar height and scale to the ones on Fatherland Street. The units are also 2 stories with a height of approximately 27 feet above the foundation. Because there is little historic context along South 10th Street, staff finds that this height and scale meets the design guidelines. Next slide. Here are the attached units further north on South 10th Street, which have similar heights to the other street-facing units. This is a street view of the proposed units on South 10th Street, along with the units to the north that were previously approved. Here are the 4 units along the alley. They each have footprints of approximately 1,600 square feet and a maximum height of approximately 25 feet. Although the footprint of these structures is larger than what is typically allowed for outbuildings, staff finds that these alley houses can be appropriate for a multi-unit development like this one. These structures are not outbuildings associated with a primary structure, but rather are their own units, and staff finds that they can be appropriate for the site and the overall historic context. Next slide. Here's the residential unit that faces a courtyard on the interior of the lot. It will have a footprint of approximately 1,300 square feet with an overall height of 27 feet from grade. Staff finds this to be appropriate for the location. And here are the 4 proposed single-story accessory structures, which are all located on the interior of the lot. Next slide. Here's a rendering of South 10th Street. And this and the next slide are both renderings of a view from the corner. So in conclusion, staff recommends approval with standard conditions that are set forth in this staff recommendation. And here for questions, and the applicant, I believe, is here as well.
Thank you, Melissa. We might have a question later. Applicant?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Scott Morton with Smith G Studio, located at 602 Taylor Street in Germantown. Smith G Studio and myself represent the owner, developer for this project. We are the design consultant and architect for the project. And we've really greatly appreciated working with the neighborhood as an East Nashvillean myself. It's always fun to work on projects in the neighborhood and work with the community on a very important location in the 5 Points district. Over the last year and a half, we met frequently with different stakeholder groups and then officially at neighborhood board meetings at 5 different official meetings, both a combination of in-person and virtual events. Got great feedback on the plans and on the design. Throughout that time, greatly appreciate the assistance of Councilman Withers, the neighborhood leaders of Edgefield, and many others, including Historic East End. Last time we presented this case 2 months ago, we brought a plan moving forward that we felt was appropriate as a transition to the 5 Point subdistrict. Staff and the commission disagreed with our transitional founding of that and said that because of building height, building shape, orientation, and proportion and rhythm of openings did not meet Section 3 of the guidelines. So therefore, the commission could not grant approval. After that meeting, we went back to the drawing board. So we said, okay, well, we have our answer. It is a transitional property. Design is a critical and important part to get it right. And so we spent time working on a redesign and determined that through both site plan reconfiguration and lowering the building height from the previous 3 stories to 2 stories across the board, among fixing other comments related to rhythm of openings as well, that we wanted to present a plan that was fully compliant with the historic guidelines. We resubmitted to staff and got their preliminary agreement that it did in fact meet the guidelines, and then subsequently the staff report that they are recommending approval given that the project meets the guidelines. The neighborhood, Edgefield neighborhood has had mixed feelings about this project throughout its history. We've gone through multiple design iterations over the last year and a half, and recently did meet with a couple of the neighborhood leaders on the Edgefield board to share the new design and get their feedback. At that meeting, we had a great conversation, very cordial discussion. It was determined that the remaining concerns of the neighborhood were related to the underlying zoning and not tied to any of the guideline requirements. It was discussed, both the neighborhood leader and many other neighborhood representatives said that they believe this in fact does meet the guidelines, but we're still uncomfortable with some of the underlying land uses that would be permitted here. So, with that, I want to keep this short because I think the staff did a great job of representing the facts of the case. We're excited about the development, and in many ways, we feel that the redesign is actually an improved plan. It's something that provides more activity and excitement both to South 10th and Fatherland, but also internally to the site at this very important mixed-use neighborhood center in 5 Points. So I think the feedback both from the community, the commission, staff has greatly improved our plan, and we kindly request that you support staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from your team? Okay. All right. Thank you. Open public hearing. I'm sure council member will also be up front.
Hi, I'm Alice Forrester, and I live at 803 Fatherland, and I'm president of Historic Edgefield. And I'm not here in strong opposition or strong support, but I just want to give a little voice to the neighborhood. And I was one of the people that met with Scott. He was very forthright, but also I just want to add that we have not had the number of meetings. We've been in a reactive mode. Our council person has not given us heads up. So we've scrambled and done what we can, and Peter Greaves, who's usually here, had a massive heart attack, and we're volunteers, so we're all struggling. He wanted me to just let you know that we're pretty much, no one is thrilled about this design. It pushes traffic back to the alley, eliminates the no STRs, is very blocky. violates the roof pitch requirements of historic, and neighbors are concerned about roof access and noise. And, we understand, and we're trying to be good neighbors. We do have to live with this. I mean, we have developments on all sides of us. It's a full-time job, and I'm a volunteer, so we're trying to go to meetings and just ask for a little bit of what we want. Most neighbors would have supported the previous plan. We truly thought they were going to come back with some modifications. Peter wrote and said, we'd like to support you on this. We like this overall. We didn't know about some of the violations. The commission would, we weren't backing, we weren't opposed to the orientation or anything. We just were talking about the block on Fatherland where it was just a facade and 3 stories. So anyways, I'm kind of overwhelmed. We've got 3 different projects we're trying to face, but we'll live with it. It's not all happy. I don't know what else to say. It's a struggle to keep up. So I appreciate your time, and I just want to say thank you for preserving the buildings that were going to be demolished. It's happening to us more and more, and I know the job is not easy, but appreciate you sticking to the guidelines. It really gives me trust in the commission. So thank you so much for your time.
And we thank you for yours.
My name is Carol Norton. I live at 801 Boscobel Street. This project, for me, falls into the category as far as the design, sorry, Scott, of being okay. It doesn't get me excited. The biggest problem I have is the way it's accessed from the alley. It also doesn't have parking for all of the units. So those are my biggest concerns to this point. But as Alice said, I really do appreciate y'all sticking to the guidelines, having sat many, many years ago where you do. It ain't easy and being a frog, but I appreciate all of your time and effort. Thank you very much, especially for the demolition.
We thank you. I guess we look like frogs over here. We like that, little hopping. All right. Oh.
My name's John Guider, 606 Fatherland Street in East Nashville. And I just want to say that, I've lived there for 2 decades, and many of the people that surround me have lived there longer. And we've spent a lot of effort and money in preserving that neighborhood. And we're a little wary of outsiders coming in to exploit our efforts. I've looked at these plans. I just hope that you enforce the rules. That's all I'm asking. From what I've seen, aesthetically, it is not a very pleasing design, but if it falls into your guidelines and you have to approve it, I understand. But what I do want to say is I do admire what you've done and what you are doing, and it's incredible. I don't think I could sit on that board, so thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's good to see you again.
Good afternoon, Council Member.
Last time I saw you, I had an all-nighter that I had pulled, and I don't do all-nighters as well as did when I was 25 or 22 or anything like that. I'm more than twice that age now, so I don't do the all-nighters as well. In particular, that night on council, I think our council meeting went till 2:30 in the morning, and we had a vigorous debate about a $2 billion stadium deal, and I don't care which side of the question you were on, that was a stressful event. So
yes.
At least this time our council meeting last night got out a little bit before midnight, so we're getting better. And I've had at least a few hours of sleep and trying to catch up on emails today. So I want to apologize for my maybe disheveled state last time, and hopefully I'm a little bit more relaxed today. But anyway, I do want to thank you for all your work on this. I would really say that this is a little bit of a learning experience for everyone. I think Ms. Forster stated it very well, that there is a diversity of opinion all throughout East Nashville, and that includes in Edgefield. Edgefield neighbors have just as much of a diversity of opinion on any given topic as any other East Nashvillians do. So it's always difficult to generalize, and I think sometimes folks, including myself, have fallen into that trap, and that's not really helpful. And so I apologize if I've done that. Apologize to the Edgefield neighbors if I've done that in the past. But again, with this project, with the MUNA zoning, when the 5 Points redevelopment district was winding down, we did have discussion about what would be appropriate for this location, and MUNA is the lowest level of intensity of commercial and mixed use that we have in our community character manual. And so it was thought that that would be a good transition, because again, some folks, including in Edgefield, are like, we'd love to have corner commercial there, and other folks are like, we would hate to have corner commercial there. So the MUNA seemed to be a good very, very modest scope for that. Another factor as well is that what we find for a lot of infill development, including in historic neighborhoods, is that a lot of our mixed-use zoning districts tend to support housing more than even a lot of our more prescriptive residential zoning districts. So depending on the size of the building that you're enabled to build, you could put a different number of units in rather than specifying a certain number of units. So that provides a certain degree of flexibility. Legislation that I worked on kind of in tandem with that rezoning for the 5 Points rezoning plan was actually a legislative effort that was brought to me or suggested to me by the Historic Germantown Neighborhood Association, which is very accustomed to working with council and development to try to find good compromises. And so one of the things that they had recommended was to find a way. We had had a court case where Metro was prohibited from requiring affordable housing or inclusionary housing, and that had been in a particular section of the zoning code that was stricken. And so what we decided might be a good idea would be to reintroduce that in a way that is maybe a little bit more specific and more limited. And so what the planning department staff had worked with me and with the zoning administrator to come up with was an incentive-based version that incentivizes housing, to say that in the mixed-use districts, including MUNA, that we as a city will enable a little bit more floor space or floor area ratio for a building, as long as it's for residential uses. And to the extent that you access that bonus, that you then forego short-term rentals. So it's an incentive-based model of getting more housing rather than it's more of a carrot version than a stick version. And that actually was recommended by the Historic Germantown Neighborhood Association, vetted that also with the builder community, who was also very on board with it. They are very interested a lot of times in building housing. And there are lots of builders, there certainly are those who do short-term rentals, but there are a lot who that is not their main intent. And so when this property sold, the party that bought it wanted to access that and wanted to build housing. And so because that rezoning had already taken place, that code provision was already in the law, this is not a rezoning. And so the applicant team who's here wanted to reach out to the neighborhood association, and they did very early on. I mean, I can't require anyone to do that. I can recommend that they do, but I can't require it because it is not a rezoning. But the applicant team did have a meeting with Edgefield neighbors and other neighbors in the community, and I think the initial version of the proposal was actually very well received. So I would say that I do understand the frustration from neighbors that sometimes you have lots of things going on, but the applicant was not required to meet with the community, but did meet with the community very early on, did take a lot of feedback, and has continued to take feedback. So I think that's something that is worth stating for the record, that we do have a development team that, A, had every intention at the beginning of building housing that would be housing, but needed some additional floor area ratio to make that work. Did intend to provide off-street parking, but needed a little bit more height in order to make that work. So there were things that they needed as well, right? Another factor that I kind of look at is very recently, for instance, Councilmember Angie Henderson and I and others had worked on sidewalk legislation that says if you do new development within a policy area, we're going to require you to upgrade the sidewalks. And then we came back a year later and we said, not only are we going to require you to upgrade the sidewalks to current standards, we're going to require you to plant street trees, which is a great thing for our neighborhoods. Well, that was recently struck down by another court decision. So again, when you have a development team that says, you know, this is kind of what we need, but what we want to provide is we want to update those sidewalks and put in street trees anyway. We want to move utilities underground, even though we're not required to. We want to work with NDOT to maybe help reconfigure the intersection, even though we're not required to. To me, that's a good faith party. I wish that everyone had a development partner like that to have a negotiation with. So however we got where we are today, this is a result of neighborhood feedback about some things, staff feedback about some things. We took it to the commission and you made a decision at that time, and they've come back with what they feel will meet the design guidelines, and I don't think anyone is saying that it won't. I do think it's a missed opportunity in many ways. I will say as well that for 10th is this boundary line between two neighborhoods that, again, while it's difficult to overgeneralize, I think to have two neighborhoods that have very, very different approaches to infill housing. And so we are beginning to have some discussions, at least with the neighbors on the east end side of the street, about that they might be interested in amending their design guidelines specifically to allow something like this. So we had a discussion about that recently, and I'm sure that will continue long after I'm gone from the council. But like I said, I think it's a learning opportunity. We as a city are really struggling with finding ways to provide missing middle housing. And I think there's even a presentation from planning on that later. There are some areas where it does make sense to add a little bit of general density, and there might be some give and take that's needed about building layout or height, about how we actually achieve that. And we haven't figured that out yet, but I'm glad that everyone is now talking about it. So just wanted to say that this is a learning opportunity for everybody, and do want to thank the neighbors for their ongoing engagement with this project, as well as for the design team for trying their best to be a very diligent partner and initiating a lot of continued feedback with the neighborhood, even though they're not required to do that. So I want to thank them for that. And I finally want to thank you all for your service. I may or may not have anything on your agenda next month. So if this is the last time that I see you as Councilmember Withers, thank you so much for all that you do.
Yeah. Thank you, Council Member. Also, we want to just say thank you for always being aware of your district and that what you bring to us and how you engage us in the preservation. You're pretty historical. You have some historical background, and we really appreciate that. So because this will probably be your last because you have termed out, we want to thank you as a commission on the work that you've done for our city as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We should clap later. Oh, we're going to clap for you.
My name is Jenna Phillip, and I reside at 927 Fatherland Street. So this project is just a couple doors down from me. My home was actually one of the photos on the PowerPoint. Nashville's history is rapidly disappearing, and it's losing its neighborhood feel. From my experience, new builds largely have little regard for maintaining the aesthetic of Nashville's existing neighborhoods. This is of even bigger importance for historic districts. I do appreciate that the new plan only has the 2-story allowance, but as we have seen with other properties, even today, where items such as windows and siding materials are of such great importance. I would hope that neighborhood structures as a whole will similarly be given the consideration for granting approval for a project that so greatly impacts a historic district. Additionally, the Five Points neighborhood, including Martin's Corner, the shops at Fatherland, they're already incredibly congested and lack adequate parking. Street parking on South 10th Street has already turned a 2-lane road into a single-lane road and has greatly contributed to congestion. So having multiple properties on this lot without generating parking for each proposed unit will similarly create a detrimental impact to congestion and parking issues on Fatherland Street as well as South 10th, and will also negatively impact alley access as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, yes, so we'll have rebuttal. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. I just want to take this time to thank the neighbors for showing up. I think activism and civility is an important part of our democratic process. Smith G Studio and myself, we've always carried ourselves with extreme integrity, and in no way, shape, or form will we ever misrepresent the community engagement, because we think it's a foundational, important aspect of every project, no matter the scale. Having the community engaged and having the space and opportunity to do it is more valuable than not. And so we understand completely there is a lot going on in Nashville, and even on our side, taking projects do take longer. We've spent a year and a half, and still people, do feel rushed because we all have things going on. So we have the greatest of intentions and on that timeline and frequency, I do want to say. And so, with that said, I think, I know we're never going to make everyone happy at the end of the day. We live in the most diverse, I would argue, the most diverse communities in Nashville, and I want it to stay that way. And we're going to have diverse opinions on different things, development, art, culture, whatever it may be. So I respect those opinions that are across the board and may be different than mine. The bottom line is we want to have a plan that's fully compliant with the design guidelines, and have a great quality project, high quality architecture, materials, and something the neighborhood could be proud of. And we do understand that some of the concerns with parking and use and regulations, are related to the MUNA zoning, and we're in full compliance with all of those aspects of the zoning code. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Scott, I have a question before you step away, if you will.
Sure. Yeah.
And this may have been said, and forgive me for being ignorant, is this at the end of the day, and perhaps if the developer wants to speak to this, is this a horizontal property regime where it's like condo association? Is it more apartments? How does that?
It would be an HPR with an HOA, common ownership property. So the open space would be under common ownership.
And then the buildings would be fee simple?
They would not be for sale. They would be for rent.
For rent, okay.
Yeah.
And so in that regard, here's where I was getting to specifically with the question. And while we try not to be a reactionary board, occasionally we have to be a reactionary board because of things that are brought to us. And I noted in the presentation that, and in the drawings, it's evident that there aren't any pop-ups for roof access and the like. So because it's a rental property, as the developer, the limitation to prohibit any permanent vertical construction of any kind at the roof is up to the property owner. So in other words, that won't happen, I guess, that's kind of where we're getting to, and we dealt with this on another project, or on another it wasn't even an application, it was sort of after the fact, and there were multiple parties like, well, if they did it, I want to do it, and all of a sudden we're in a situation where we're dealing with something that was unintended.
Sure. No, great question. It is in the document, in the full submittal package, it does show our roof access strategy. The buildings are 2 stories tall. The roof access starts at the second floor level. And so if you imagine the building looking from above, it's like a donut.
Sure.
That bulkhead is basically, instead of being on top of the roof, it's incorporated into the second level. So there will be no stair bulkheads or any kind of bulkheads extending above the parapet for circulation reasons.
Got it. In this scenario, we had folks wanting to use the rooftop, which people are wont to do, in this site plan has more exterior space, so it might not be a need, but folks were looking to make every possible use of every bit of real estate that they had, and some fences were put up and some other permanent vertical improvements. That was the line of my questioning, and the reason for that is that we just kind of want to know what the deal is, and we don't want to necessarily burden the project with something, but if we ever have to answer questions to people that weren't here, that were buyers, we certainly want to, I think the staff knows where I'm going with it. We want to be able to at least give ourselves a defensible place from which to work, but I think you've addressed that adequately here, and that's all I had. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was going to ask that question. So.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would like to ask applicant.
Come on up again.
Question. So it is not our body's purview, but I think it does not include zone change such as SP. So if our body approves, this plan will going into the codes department and permit process. So that's why I just kind of want to address about the parking issue. I understand because of the UDO, the parking is not literally required. But I noticed compared to April plan, the 3-story was reduced to 2 stories because the parking garage of those buildings was literally eliminated. So could you briefly talk about a parking and traffic transition plan within that development? So I'm assuming you will be encouraging pedestrian and public transition approach. But if you would address that briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from a parking standpoint, we do have reduced parking. We are providing some parking, which none is required, of course, but parking's important. We don't want to clutter the neighborhood, be an undue burden on the neighborhood. It is a busy part of the community. There's lots of restaurants and activity in 5 Points, so parking on street is a premium. We are, in fact, utilizing some of that on-street parking that would be available. Currently, we have spaces available on the Fatherland Street frontage, and we'll be working closely with the neighborhood, and NDOT are working on a new street project for South 10th, which we're really excited about, which could bring even further opportunity for more street parking, potentially, if it's approved, on South 10th, and a new multimodal bike lane and pedestrian space and street trees. So we're fully invested in contributing to all of those improvements when the plan is finalized, but we're not depending on that for our parking either. We have adequate parking with the balance of on-site and off-site parking, off-street rather is the word I was looking for. We're going to depend heavily on pedestrian circulation, of course. We're building new sidewalks around the entire property, new planting strips, new street trees. We have a very strong pedestrian connectivity from the streets internally to the site and to the alley. The zoning does require that we provide site access from the alley. In previous versions, we did have a new alley proposed, but we lost that land area when we lost the square footage of the additional height from that plan. So that's why the change in that circulation has occurred. But does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions to the applicant? No? Okay. Did I open public hearing already? Yes. Okay. I think we just brought him up, so we haven't closed it yet. All right. We will close public hearing. And commissioners. I'll just make you want to make a comment? Oh, no, you go. No, you go first. You go first. Chair always goes last.
Oh, well. This is tough, and this is a bit of an unusual case for us in that this is a by right. They're doing this by right. So our purview is extraordinarily limited. And a lot of the issues that the neighborhood has would ordinarily be thankfully dealt with the Planning Commission if it had to go before them. I'm so glad I'm not on the Planning Commission. What a difficult job. So to the neighbors, I say, I've been the president of a neighborhood association with an extraordinary amount of development in my neighborhood, and it's hard. It's hard to feel like things are being done to you and you're not part of the process. I appreciate the developers reaching out. I understand it's probably not the level that you desired, but I do appreciate the willingness to do that. It's a difficult situation. All that to say, our purview is so limited here as to whether this meets the guidelines or not. Thankfully, there's a lot of aesthetic things that we don't even deal with here. Our guidelines are very specific, so I am thankful for that. As you've heard today, we do our best to follow these guidelines, and sometimes that is to the benefit of historic preservation, if you will, into neighborhoods, and then sometimes it places us in the position where that may not be the case. But here, I think we once again must do what we are tasked to do and follow the historic preservation guidelines. And I would encourage this developer and these folks who are spearheading this project, as you make these promises about sidewalks and street trees, please follow through. You'll be before us again, and you'll be asking us again. So please follow through. But anyway, that's my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, I think, compared to the previous plan and new proposed plan, I think orientation and height and massing and also improvement in the middle courtyard and eliminated, parking. Instead of asphalt, parking, it replaced by little trees and, more amenity and internal sidewalks within this community. And I think, neighbors can come to this nice fire pit, the community amenity. So overall, it looks like a really improvement. And as far as, historic zoning Commission's point, the transition, massing, and height, I think it meets guideline. I understand some people may not so fond of a flat roof, and if I have my preference, yeah, I would love to have a little, triangular or something a little more interesting on top of the roof, but it's not, as long as it meets within the guideline, we cannot require those. So for that, I think the plan currently proposed is a great improvement. And with this added amenity, I do appreciate the new proposal and agree with the staff recommendation.
I'm going to piggyback on that as well. It's great that the front facades are brick. They could have had some mixed, but it's much improved. The front entrances to the street, which is connectivity, and I don't think the one in April had that. That's an improvement. And again, whether the neighborhood really was for 3 stories, they acquiesced to a 2-story. And that's huge for a developer to do that, which they could have gone three stories. But also that when you drive that neighborhood, and it's very eclectic. I mean, I'm a patron of East Nashville. And, there's historic homes that are pitched roof. There are, flat roofs that are commercial. I mean, Fatherland's not far. And they have flat roofs. So, where the context of the neighborhood is quite eclectic. So it seems that this design contributes to that intention. So that's my opinion.
Madam Chair, with respect to 210 10th Street, having heard from the applicant and interested parties, both in writing and otherwise, I move approval of the project as submitted with the inclusion of the recommendation summary of the staff.
A motion? A second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor? Yes. You threw me off with your question. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Okay, gotcha. And none opposed? Seeing none, that passes. So thank you to the developer. Thank you for the neighborhoods for your input as well. And thank you, Councilmember Withers, one more time. And we are going to do a little 10-minute break. We're back on. Where are we at right now? 1005 Bate Avenue.
Yes, and this is a real quick one, so I'm just going to sit down.
Okay.
And do it.
Very good.
So this is a request for infill in an outbuilding at 1005 Bate. The house is non-contributing, so demolition is appropriate. Pretty much the project, it meets all design guidelines. It meets the setbacks, height and scale is appropriate, roof form, fenestration, and so forth. So here's the front and rear elevation. It's 1.5 stories, side elevations, and here's the outbuilding, which also meets all design guidelines. Here are some context photos. So the top photo, the non-contributing house is the center. The house to the left is infill that was approved by the commission. The height and scale of this project is similar to what was approved there. So in conclusion, staff recommends approval with all conditions listed in the staff recommendation. They're pretty much standard conditions. And
That's it?
Yeah.
Is the applicant here?
It does not appear to be.
Oh, you're not the applicant? Okay. Okay, very good. All right, so no applicant. We will open public hearing, and we will close public hearing, and we will have a motion.
Any discussion?
Oh, unless you want one.
Nope.
Okay, somebody.
No, it's all good.
Okay. In relation to 1005 Bate Avenue, I move that we accept staff recommendations
All right.
and approve with staff recommendations.
Motion? Second by Commissioner Johnson. You've been seconding all afternoon. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
None opposed. That motion passes. All right. On to tax abatement.
Turn this on. So you may remember that you have two caps for the tax abatement. You have a 40 million ongoing cap that'll just continue until it's all used up, and that is specific to Second Avenue bomb damaged projects. You also have a 20 million cap that renews annually. So you've had one application for the $20 million cap that obviously doesn't max it out. And so our recommendation, because both projects do qualify, they meet all the qualifications, and you approved some of the work on consent. So our recommendation is to use up the entirety of the 20 million annual cap on both. And then what's left of that Second Avenue request, take that from the 40 so that we're leaving more of the 40 million for other projects that we know are coming. And that is our recommendation, to approve both of them, they qualify, and to work the numbers that way. That would leave little over 26 million for the 40 million cap for Second Avenue.
And then we would use up the 20 million for 2023.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to reveal that in going through the paperwork of the 101 Church Street, I noticed that there were some numbers from a contractor who is a client of my husband's. I was not aware of that. I have no financial interest in it at all. My husband was not aware of the project, has never done any work on it, but there is that connection, so I need to reveal that.
Okay.
It does not impact my opinion at all.
Very good. Duly noted.
For clarity, Robin, the $20 million is an annual that renews calendar year?
It renews every July.
Every July.
I mean,
So
it renews before that so that you have this money to give away every July.
every July, but it ticks
That's
at
the
20
fiscal.
until July comes again, and then it
Right.
rolls to a new 20. That was the only clarification I needed.
Is that timeline because of fiscal year for Metro? Is that
It's
how it goes?
based on when the property assessor and the trustee sends the tax bills.
Okay.
Since this is an exemption of, or partial exemption of the tax bill.
Okay, good info. Also, I just publicly want to thank those who have in our council members. Jeff Syracuse actually brought this initiative to the council under Mayor Cooper's administration. So I just want to, acknowledge and thank that. Because it's going to be really helpful for our preservation. So thank you, Mayor Cooper, and thank you, Jeff Syracuse.
It's always good to have more tools in the toolkit.
Yes. Oh, good tools, yes. Anything else on this?
Public hearing?
Yeah, okay. Make sure we didn't have any other questions for the staff. Open public hearing.
Come on down.
We want to hear from you. And thank you for waiting to the very end here. Be
I'm happy
patient.
to. It means I don't have to talk in front of too many people. I'm Kristen. I'm with Deoma, which is the owner of 101 Church.
Kristen, what's your last name?
Carson.
Carson, thank you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. So I just wanted to take a minute to explain how impactful this tax credit is to our project. As you can imagine, the building was incredibly damaged by the bombing. It takes a significant amount of money to rehab this building. We're still working with insurance, but thus far they've only agreed to pay for about 5% of the contractor's price. So this tax credit is really helping to make the rehabilitation possible. And also, if you know of any other tax credits, please let me know. But the bombing caused two major problems for us. So there's structural, which you can imagine, but the other impact was water damage because the sprinkler system went off for days, right? I think maybe 36 hours. It was a very long time, and the FBI wouldn't allow anyone into the building, so there was, just flooding in there and kind of unmitigated water damage during that period of time. And so, as a result, it's not just the structure that has to be secured, and we have to even the stairwell was twisted, so that has to be taken down and then redone. But also, all the interior components, like the sheetrock and everything, were damaged from water. So, the flooring, it's just a really huge remodel that we're having to undertake. And then additionally, the flaming hot pieces of the RV landed on the roof and burned the TPO on the roof. So there's just a real significant amount of work that these buildings require, this particular building requires. So I wanted to kind of explain why this is so important and so impactful. We are using this as I said, I love tax credits. So we're going through the historic tax credit process as well with the National Park Service. So we are trying to do a historic remodel because we have to replace the windows anyway. But I wanted to mention that to you guys. Oh, sorry. Anyway, thank you.
Was that really time up? Oh, can we just let her talk? Because
You can choose to extend the time.
Yes.
And this is structured not as like an applicant.
Yes,
Just generally
yes.
a longer 10-minute
Yeah.
period. This is just more public hearing generally.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Legal.
But you can-
Yeah,
you can
please,
choose all-
please.
Yeah, well, thanks. I was at the very end anyway. I just wanted to say how important it is, and we're really thankful that this exists because we're facing such an uphill battle anyway. And of course, in addition to all the impact here, then of course interest rates went up too. So it's just like a massive uphill battle. So I wanted to say thank you, and this is really important to our project, the future of Second Ave.
So have you started your remediation and all that?
We just got approved earlier today for the rehabilitation. And we'll be submitting to the city in the next, within the next few weeks. So we're working on it, but it's definitely an uphill battle. And so we appreciate you guys, and the tax credit is really significant.
Well, we appreciate you being, patient with it. I mean, 2020, it's now 2023. It's been a long wait.
It's a long time, yeah, and I think all the buildings have, an uphill battle in front of them. So.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm just curious, what are your plans for the building?
So it was a hostel, and
Yes.
we're bringing it back to being a hotel and hostel use.
Great. Are you going to utilize the entire building, or are you just going to have that basement space that you had before?
So the building was utilized before, but we'll be using the entire thing.
The hostel?
Yeah, the whole building was utilized.
Is there going to be any kind of commercial space like there was that restaurant before?
We will have I think it's 2 restaurant and bar spaces. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks.
So
I'm
it'll be
just
open to the
curious.
public and should be really. I'm very excited about it. I've talked to Robin actually a lot about. So this building used to be a candy manufacturing facility in the 1800s, and so we're actually bringing it back to that and really trying to, we've found pieces of candy bar wrappers in the walls and stuff. And so
What kind of candy bars?
it's cool, yeah. I actually don't even know, but they're cool anyway.
Oh,
so.
Henry, no.
Yeah, and so we're definitely trying to build that. That's a big part of the story, and we're looking for also if you find any historical evidence of using the sugar from candy to make whiskey, just let me know because that's going to be part of our story too.
The Historical Commission may be able to help you with that.
It also wholesales cigars, so.
Oh, and
That'll
cigars
work for your speakeasy.
Yeah, that's right. We will definitely have a speakeasy. So maybe you can have an after council meeting sometime.
There you go.
We can't say that publicly.
Make sure it's noticed, Dan. Make sure it's noticed.
Our legal says no. But we look forward to, seeing that renovation for sure. I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, we've had some reports of Second Avenue, so it's really moving pretty slow. Yeah.
It's insurance.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Chair, if I may add to that, the project at 1926 10th, this is a project that's been going on for, I think, at least a couple of years. It's an applicant who isn't dealing with bomb damage, but called me completely distraught because she didn't think she could make the project work. And she knows what she's doing. She knew what she was getting into ahead of time. She was prepared, she was ready, and she still couldn't make it work. And I said, will this help? She hadn't heard about it yet. And this is a make or break probably for that project as well.
Yep. Well, anyway, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
If you do, you might just say thank you to the council members, and also Mayor Cooper. As it makes a difference when public will give that kind of opinion, because they work hard at it, and we do too. But we actually have to look to them to give us the budget for that. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, please do.
Will do. I'll send an email
Yeah.
for sure.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Next up is what you discussed last week, which is for Second Avenue.
Do we need
Oh.
a motion and approval on that?
Oh, yes, we do. I'm sorry. I think okay.
I don't believe you've actually finished public hearing.
We're not finished. I believe the gentleman would like to do public hearing. Please do, come forward.
Hello, my name is Ron Lim. I've been the owner of that building on 101 Church Street since 2011. I'm also the owner-operator of the hostel that ran out of the building. I've acquired the property following the collapse in 2008, and that building was severely underutilized, mostly empty. And we became the first business that faces a First Avenue North entrance. And when I first went into that building to establish that business, the park directly in front of it were mostly habitated by homeless and vagrants. And we were quite worried, but the business that I had, the hostel, this might be an interesting statistic, but we hosted like over 30,000 people every year from all over the world. In fact, we got established, the hospital got established way back when Mr. Sonny West was alive. And when we proposed bringing the hospital to Nashville, most of the staff in his planning didn't know what a hospital was. And they took me up to Mr. Sonny West. And he took one look at it and he said, this is a good business for Nashville, make it happen. And that's how it came to be. And that corner brought 30,000 internationals, mostly aged between 18 to 40 years old, to that part of the building. And from there, we were able to hire 16 full-time employees. And a lot of people don't know about our business, but that's been the history. And we were going strong, and I almost considered retirement at like 2019, and then the bombing, the COVID happened, which brought challenge to the travel. And then when we thought we were getting over COVID, the bombing happened. Now, COVID didn't bring us down. I mean, I was just fine, even with our business was cut, but still, we were able to get by. But the bombing just brought us to our knee, and I had to take on our business partner, Kristen, and I'm happy to work with her, and she's got an incredible project and incredible business. But because of the position that I was put in, I had to take on a business partner, and Kristen brings incredible. She already has a very ongoing, solid business, and I have a high confidence that she's going to do this project right. So just want to thank you guys for considering our project, and how many jobs will this bring to the city? About 70 to 75 jobs. So that's a lot more than 16 jobs that I had.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, and it would mean a lot for the project.
Well, we thank you for hanging in there.
Yeah.
It's been difficult. It's been difficult through the time, so thank you. And now we know what happens there.
Yes. Yes.
I don't think I knew that there was a hostel there.
I will say I have several European friends who have been to Nashville and stayed at that hostel. And now when they come to town, they stay with me. So I'm really excited about you opening your hostel again. But no, I mean, really, I didn't know about the hostel till I had friends who visited me from the Netherlands who'd stayed there before. And so, thank you for hanging in there.
Yeah, that speaks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll close public hearing. All right, commissioners, any discussions? Further discussions?
Madam Chair, I move that for the annual $20 million cap application that $2,300,000 be granted to 1926, and that the remaining 17, I think I get the math right here, 17,700,000 for the annual be granted to 101 Church. The math being the remainder of the application, the math being left to the one-time cap of $40 million.
Okay, there's a motion. Second by Commissioner Cotton. All in favor? Yes. None opposed. That motion passes. Okay. All right. One more.
Has it started to move ahead too fast? Now we'll go to Second Avenue
Yes,
again.
thank you.
For the potential of additional height for rooftop additions. So we didn't revise the guidelines, the staff recommendation, but we did provide for you the drawings that were requested last month. And those are in your packet, and we have them on the PowerPoint today. And so it's back to you for a decision or deferral.
You want to talk about it some more? Do you want to talk about it some more? You're just going to assume we looked at the recommendation?
Yes, we can show them now. I think the pictures probably speak for themselves. I don't know that I have a lot to add to it.
I think it was Commissioner Price who had brought up, and thank you for providing the drawings that give us, some perspective of what that would look like. Actually, even from the bridge or across the river.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Before we have discussion, then we would open up for public hearing as well.
I believe, yes, I think you should.
Okay.
I believe you had public hearing previously. This is on the agenda again, and I believe there's new evidence, so I think as
There
a
might
matter
be
of form,
some.
it's a good
Okay,
idea.
yeah, they might have some opinions as well. Robin, that's it for now, right? We might have some questions after
Correct.
public hearing. So we'll open public hearing. Do you all have any opinions? And okay, all right. Close public hearing. And commissioners to discuss.
Sorry, Commissioner Price.
Mm-hmm. Or Cyril as well. What do you think?
Well,
What do you think, architects?
Here for the previous discussion. So I'm at a disadvantage.
I think a lot of it was more about like a potential view from across the river or from the bridge versus
First Avenue.
From First Avenue
Yeah.
versus what it would look like from
Second
the
Avenue.
street views looking up. That seemed to be what a lot of the discussion was about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last time.
Just to clarify, did you have a chance to review the prior hearing and materials?
No, and I was kind of thinking I need to recuse myself from,
Yeah, I
from
believe that's
voting on this.
correct,
Because
yeah.
Okay.
I just don't, I mean, I could get up to speed really quick, and I specifically remember, maybe I should stop talking now since we've said that, but I specifically remember something, the application that's pictured and was approved in 2014 at 112. So I remember that, but I was not here, so I'll stop talking and
Well,
recuse myself.
So we deferred it last time, which we could do again. With such a significant change, I almost want to do that and propose it because we don't have Cyril and we don't have David here. And David specifically asked for it.
Yeah.
You have a comment?
Yes, I think it would. I hate kicking cans down the road, but at the same time, I don't think we could have the full, robust discussion. I think this deserves.
I agree.
Cyril
I agree.
Well, then it
and
also
David.
gives,
David.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
then it also gives Commissioner Mosley opportunity to review and you can participate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would rather that because
Yeah.
I'll do better next time.
Oh, no.
we're going to give you an assignment, Commissioner. Uh-oh.
I think
Okay.
the more people involved in the discussion. the
Yes,
better.
absolutely. I mean, again, it's a significant
It is. It's very significant.
revision.
I'm just curious, has somebody requested 3 stories, or is there a proposal? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
There have been requests for at least 2.
Recent?
Yes.
Okay.
Years ago and recent. And so in looking at it, I was thinking that 3 would potentially max out what the base zoning was allowed. So that was the only reason we went with the potential for 3. So you don't, I mean, if there's any uncomfortableness, you don't have to approve it at all. And you certainly don't have to approve it with 3 if you do want to approve it.
Okay. I just wondered if what precipitated this.
All I must say, it's good conversation, discussion for updating with the developments that are happening. That, not to say we kick it down the road, but just because it's a good time, it's a good opportunity to do that. With Second Avenue, that's being, after the bombing and all the renovations that's happening there, I mean, we really need to be proactive. I think that's, for our commission to be proactive. And our staff, thank you, staff, for bringing it to us. But Chair is going to propose that we defer it till the next August.
Do we have a motion for that?
Yeah, I'm just making, yes, please.
So before it coming back to August, could I ask just clarifying question to the staff? Because I wanted to be sure what I'm looking is the exact proposal. The reason I'm asking is the last, those 3 stories kind of drawing. So that is meet the guideline. Cannot see from the Second Avenue side, but showing meet all the setback and everything. That's a mock-up of the picture we are seeing. Is that correct?
It's all a mock-up, yes.
Okay, so as far as the meeting with the guideline, setback, front setback, side setback, that's the kind of scale the drawing showing us.
The way the draft is written right now, this is what could happen.
Okay,
So,
great, thank you.
not to say that it couldn't be rewritten a different way.
Right.
Okay. So somebody has to make the motion. I am just making the recommendation.
I will make the motion that we defer a decision on the Second Avenue design guideline revision until our next meeting.
Motion. Second by Commissioner Mayhaw. All in favor of the deferral?
Aye.
Okay. You abstained? Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is concurring. Legal? So we are good. Yes. And that motion passes. So we will defer until August 16.
And we have just one other thing I wanted to go over, if you don't mind. And that is, you've seen the email, but I wanted just to chat about it a little bit, that we are starting our first Citizen Historic Preservation Academy. And that'll start on September 11th. It's going to be 6 sessions, 2 hours each. We're going to meet at different historic sites. All of you have been invited to the graduation, which we will notice, because we're going to ask everyone to do a little project, to pick a building at the beginning of the sessions and kind of think about it all the way through and share with everyone else what they learned. You know, are there incentives that would be good for this project? Is it listed in the National Register? Did they maybe get encouraged to do the research on the building? So I thought everyone might enjoy kind of hearing what they have come up with. So feel free to send that out to anyone that you think would be a really good candidate for this. The ideal person would be someone that can really take it back to their communities. So that's why we've made it competitive. It's just 12 people. It's a good networking number for them to network with each other. And it will be an opportunity for them to hopefully be ambassadors for preservation in their smaller neighborhoods. So again, if you know of anyone, please pass it on.
Davidson County residents, I'm assuming?
It's all metro focused, so I think it's only going to be of interest to Davidson County property owners.
Okay. I think our meeting is adjourned. Do we have to have motion to adjourn?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Yes, I know some. Yeah. Okay, so moved, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.